Read Into It with Robin, a virtual book club.
Welcome back to the Virtual Book Club. This month we are talking to Dr. Nina herself about the book she wrote called The Binge Cure. Now, this book, the reason I really liked it is because it talked so much about the emotions that play into eating. And especially anybody who's celebrating Pesach this month is going to know that there's a lot of food that comes along with that, with holidays in general. But I will say that most people I know struggle with food in some way, shape, or form. So let me invite Dr. Nina on here and let's get talking about the book. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Oh, hi there.
Hello.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Officially.
So glad to have you here. I was just giving a little intro to the book.
Oh my God, this is the book.
That's the newer version. I have a really older
That's
version
the
here.
2019 version that was out for like 6 months.
Oh my gosh. Somehow
You
I
have the
got my hands on
OG
that
one.
Yeah. Exactly. I was just saying that something I really, really liked about this book is, as a therapist, the idea of like emotions playing a role in what we're eating is huge. And I was actually curious. I love that you wrote 7 Steps to Outsmart Emotional Eating. And I wanted to ask you, is it just about binging, or would you say this is also very relevant to like all kinds of eating disorders?
All kind of disordered eating. The best compliment I got on this book was from someone who doesn't struggle with food, but read it and said, this is like a life guide. This is
Yeah.
like a change your relationship to you guide.
Yes.
So, if you have an unhealthy, unhappy relationship with food, this book is for you, because if you have an unhealthy, unhappy relationship with food, chances are you have an unhealthy, unhappy relationship with you in some way that you
Yes.
may be unaware of. And the book really goes into all of the hidden reasons we are turning to food. If we're turning to food, we're turning away from something else. And often that is hidden from us. It's easier to think about what we're eating than what's eating at us.
Yes.
So I wrote the book because I really want people to repair their way of relating to themselves, their thoughts, their feelings, other people, the world. Because when we make peace with ourselves, we make peace with food.
Yeah, and it resonated so much with me, like the whole message. It's just so aligned. Again, like as a therapist, I was just like, wow, this is great. As I was reading it, I kept like turning down the corners of the pages that like stood out, and I think like most of the book is just turned down. I was like, oh, I want to bring this up and I want to bring that up, but like it's everything, because it's so real and relevant. And again, I think most women I know struggle with food in some way, shape, or form. Like food plays a really big role in our lives. It just does. Even if it's not with disordered eating, but we have it on our minds constantly. What did I eat today? How much did I eat? Am I good? Am I bad? Which I don't like that language, but people
Yes.
think that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, food is our first form of relating. Our first bonding is when we're being fed, whether it's from a breast or a bottle, right? Someone is holding us as babies. We are feeling safe, hopefully, and warm and connected and cuddled and all of that. And that connection is fused with the experience of being fed. So when we talk about comfort food, we're really talking about a wish to be comforted by someone else. So in this way, food really represents relationships. It's like a symbolic representation of connection.
Yeah.
But people can be unpredictable, unreliable, and unavailable, as we all know. And food is always available, predictable, and reliable. And so often it is easier to have sort of a relationship with food than it is with people.
That's such a good point. Like food provides nurturing, physical nurture, right? But there's also that emotional element, and that's so true. And there's something that you could actually control with that. You can give yourself more, you can give yourself less. There's that element too.
And often we displace a wish to control aspects of our lives onto food. So many people that I've seen, and by the way, I treat men as well as women. A lot of men struggle with this issue too, only, you know, they're kind of socialized to think, well, that's something that women, like that's a chick thing, like that's not for guys, but it's a human thing. So now I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
The nurturing piece.
Oh yes, I was saying that in addition to nurturing, it does other things. You know, it fills a void. Some people say like, emptiness, loneliness. Often people will say, "Well, I just eat when I'm bored." Well, you know what? The way to deal with boredom is to do something. Now, eating is doing something, but that really isn't solving boredom. But we say boredom when we really mean empty or lonely, and then food symbolically fills us up inside, so we feel less empty, we feel less lonely. Oh, I know what I was saying. I was saying that often people displace helplessness or a wish to control aspects of their lives onto food. So instead of, oh my God, I can't control my teenage kid or my boss or whatever is going on in the world right now, it is so chaotic and crazy and I feel so helpless. That is an untenable experience. And so often we just go, I can't deal with that, but oh my God, I can't believe I ate a bagel. So we hyper focus on what we're eating to give ourselves the illusion of control or to displace helplessness from these areas of our lives onto our relationship with food.
Yeah.
And then specifically for women, you know, the diet industry has told us we're better if we're smaller. And it always hurts my heart when I see, you know, a group of smart, bright, capable, professional women who are talking about, oh, well, I was good, you know, last night, so that's why I'm going to have pasta for lunch, as if they have to justify certain foods. You know, the diet industry gives us that illusion that if we lose weight, we're going to be a better version of ourselves. We'll lose the parts of ourselves. They don't explicitly say this, but we'll lose the parts of ourselves that we don't like. So if you're shy and you lose weight, oh, you're going to be outgoing. You know, if you don't have friends, you're going to lose weight. You're going to get friends. Yeah. I had a friend, and I talk about it in my book, and this guy broke up with her. Honestly, I can't blame him. She's tough in a relationship, but she said, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and get him back, which was so vexing because it made the guy so shallow that all she had to do was lose 20 pounds and he'd be like, oh yes, now I want you, you know, and that illusion. So there are so many different ways we get messages, both consciously, unconsciously, in our culture, in our families, that lead us to use food in some way. And when you realize what that is, then you know what to do, because you can't fight an invisible army. You just get beaten up, right? The invisible army are the ideas and the notions and, you know, the mistaken beliefs you have. Yeah. When you realize it and you see it, then you know, and you can fight back. And so that's really why I wrote this book, because I wanted to do, I'd done more academic books. I wanted to write something that helped people make that invisible army visible, turn unconscious into conscious. And then you know, you know what you're doing. You know, now you know what you can fight back on and win.
Exactly. That's exactly what, as I was reading through the book, I was recognizing that's really what you accomplished with this book, that it helps people get in touch with what's driving them and maybe connect with the emotions that are underlying those drives. So it's really very fascinating. And yeah, I would agree with what you said before, that person who told you, like, it helps you get in touch with yourself, like whether you struggle with food or not. And again, I think most people do, but it's it's just, there's something that really, it lets you distinguish between like your physical hunger and your emotional hunger.
And that it's exactly, and that it's more than emotions. Like people tend to think, oh, you know, emotional eating, you know, is, oh, I had a bad breakup, so I'm eating some ice cream, which that is emotional eating. Emotional eating is anytime we're eating something to feel better emotionally. All binge eating is emotional eating in a sense, but not all emotional eating is binge eating. But binge eating, emotional eating can also be driven by conflict. women are told, like, don't be angry, for example. So sometimes it's not like they're angry and they are turning to food. It's that they're suppressing their anger, eating, and then getting mad at themselves and displacing that anger that belongs to whoever or whatever onto themselves. Or conflicts about choices in life or boundaries. And it's easier to go, oh my gosh, I'm gonna eat my macros perfectly tomorrow, than it is to say, oh, I have to say no to this family member, and I'm worried about what that's going to be like.
Right.
So,
There's that control element. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if we just talk about emotions, we live in a culture that says, don't have them. Don't have emotions.
Exactly.
Oh, hi, Terry. Don't have emotions. If you have emotions, you're weak. You are strong if you don't have emotions, and you're weak if you have them. And so what are we supposed to do with our feelings, which are just natural human reactions to situations?
Yeah. What would
We
you say
can't.
to someone who would like to eat something, meaning the concept of emotional eating could be, it's not always bad, I want to say, right? Are there times where like somebody could be in the mood of something good? I don't know, maybe they're celebrating something. So it's just like, right, it's not bad to eat a slice of birthday cake on your birthday, even if that's
Yeah,
emotional, you're not actually hungry.
that's not emotional eating. I would say that is birthday cake, right? That's having cake on your birthday or someone else's birthday. Emotional eating is, technically, emotional eating is, I had such a hard day. I'm going to reward myself with some ice cream or something like that. And emotional eating is not necessarily a large amount. It's when and I should say, actually, binge eating, people misuse that term. I've heard people say, oh my God, I binged so bad I ate 4 cookies. And I've heard people say, I binged so bad I ate 40 cookies and I was just getting started. That's a binge. Okay. So it's really the quantity. A binge is the quantity and also the attitude towards yourself. When we eat emotionally, we tend to say, okay, I overdid it. Or if we overeat or eat a little bit emotionally, it's like, okay, I overdid it. I'm just going to watch it the rest of the day or tomorrow, whatever it is. But with binge eating, it's full of shame and self-recrimination and self-hatred, and people hate themselves afterwards, and they feel mortified, and they think, oh my God, if people knew what I was doing with food, they'd be disgusted. So binge eating is just so riddled with shame, and it makes you feel bad about yourself. Yeah. Whereas emotional eating or even overeating is just, maybe you feel guilty about what you ate, but you don't feel so terrible about you.
Okay. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who struggles with tuning into the cues and like tuning into themselves? They still want to feel somewhat in control around food, but they don't want to have disordered eating. Like, what's a good way to navigate that?
Permission. I have 2 stories regarding this. One is challenge the good food, bad food idea, that because good food, bad food turns into good me, bad me. And it is diet mentality. And whenever you tell yourself you can't have something, you only want it more. 2 examples. One is a woman who came to me and she said that every day she told herself as she was leaving work, she was not going to go to In-N-Out and get a vanilla milkshake. I'm not. And then it was like her car drove to In-N-Out and she would get a vanilla milkshake every single day. And she just said, I'm helpless over vanilla milkshakes. And she just felt terrible about it. So I told her she had to listen to me and do what I told her to do. And did she promise? Because it was going to sound crazy. And she's like, I do anything. So I said, okay, we're going to see each other next week. Every day between now and then, you are to go to In-N-Out and get a vanilla milkshake. And she looked at me like, maybe Dr. Nina has lost her actual mind. But she did it. She did it. And by day 4, she called me and she said, oh my God, I'm really sick of vanilla milkshakes. Do I have to keep eating them? The only thing that changed was it was about deprivation, so she wanted what she couldn't have. When I actually directed her to eat them, it gave her more of a choice. Do I really want this or not?
Yeah.
Now, of course, we then had to get into why the vanilla milkshakes and what was it doing for her and all that, but it really did stop that cycle of daily vanilla milkshakes. In fact, there was a research project. They decided that they were going to prove the existence of food addiction. They're going to prove it. And they said to people who struggled with food, we want you to eat your forbidden foods. We want you to eat as much as you want of your forbidden foods, thinking, well, these people, it's going to activate their brains and they're just going to be unable to stop. But you know what happened? They disproved the addiction theory, because when people had permission, they actually ate less.
Okay. Right? So back to the rules and the beliefs about it, giving permission. Yes.
We have brains, but we also have minds. And we're not these like brainless people like shoveling spoons of sugar into our mouths we're not addicted to sugar. It's usually what sugar is in, and it's not addictive. If we're going to use the word addicted, we want to soothe, cope, distract, or numb, and we're using that particular food to do it.
Yeah.
So another example of deprivation is I raise my girls like if they were hungry, I would give them two options. I would say, do you want some hummus and carrots, or do you want some ice cream? Do you want some cheese and crackers, or do you want an apple and peanut butter? Like or maybe those are both relatively healthy, but I give them like two choices as if they were equal. And most of the time, my girls would say, I want celery and peanut butter. I don't want ice cream. We went trick-or-treating with one of my daughter's friends, and her parents were of the idea that sugar was toxic, it was bad, it was poison. And this girl knew that the second she got back home, her parents were going to confiscate her Halloween candy. So the whole time she's sneaking candy. She made herself sick. She ate so much. At a certain point, my daughter said, I'm hungry. And my husband said, you have a pillowcase full of candy. Like, have some. And she said, no, I want real food. Yes. Because when you are taught, like, you can have anything, you choose the real food. And so people need to first challenge these diet rules. That's why the first chapter of my book is ditch the diets, like ditch that diet mentality. It's very hard to do because, it goes against everything we've been raised with. But really tune into like recognizing that deprivation or the anticipation of deprivation makes us want something more. And it is a diet binge cycle. So take away the diet first. And really tune in.
Exactly. I think, did you write that story? Was it the story of your daughter in the book?
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's so true, because it's what she's been conditioned to is like real food. So the sugar wasn't even like tempting. It's not like you never offered it. It just wasn't so tempting. And as you were saying that, I was thinking the flip side also, meaning yes, you have to give yourself permission. And also people who are withholding food, who are not giving it to themselves, maybe something's going on in their life that they don't like, and they feel like that loss of control, right? And what they can control is not eating something and keeping it away from them, or sometimes not even eating anything for, all day. I'll just eat a tiny dinner. That's also coming from a really deep place of things aren't okay in my life, and like the emotions behind that.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't write about that in the binge cure because that's specifically for people, but in my other book, Food for Thought, I do have a whole section on anorexia and deprivation and the meaning of that, and the various reasons why people might restrict themselves. And I found when I treated people who were anorexic, they weren't just depriving themselves of food, they were depriving themselves of life. And so they were restricted in so many different ways, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, you didn't write specifically about that in the book, but a lot of the tools or the techniques or even the prompts that you wrote, I found like could connect to them as well. Like just again, because of the emotional undercurrent, so a lot of the things that you wrote, I was like, oh, this is again, really valuable for, in so many ways, like writing, get comfortable with your needs and wants. Like Of course, like I love that. It's so important for relationships with yourself, relationships with others. Like it's important. Um, yeah, so many things that you're writing about anxiety. I mean, right, loneliness. Like these are could be really things that could be related to food, but also things that people feel all the time.
It's easier to feel guilty about food or guilty about or shame about food than it is to feel guilty about thoughts, needs, boundaries, right? Your relationship to food is like an easy fall guy in a sense, because especially women are socialized, be nice, take care of other people, don't take care of yourself, self-sacrifice, and don't get mad. So what do so many women do? They get mad at themselves. Oh my God, I can't believe I ate that, or I can't believe I weigh that, or I'm so out of control. And when you start expressing, it doesn't make you an angry person. I hear that a lot. I'm not an angry person. No, you're a person who gets to be angry, and frustration, irritation, annoyance, rage are all forms of anger, and getting comfortable with a range of emotions and gauging the intensity of your emotions. When we learn to express it, not necessarily to the person who's making you mad, sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's not a good idea, but you have to, for yourself, be able to identify, express, and then respond, rather than positive think it away, drop it, gratitude away, or stuff it down. It
Yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah, denial. Oh my gosh, this is why I love the book so much because I just felt so aligned with it. And what you were just saying now also reminded me of what you had written in the book, like the food mood formula, right? Like
Oh
what
yeah.
you're choosing to eat. So it's when you're choosing to eat, how you're choosing to eat, what you're choosing to eat. There's such a strong connection between your emotion and your food. And I also, yeah, I think you had written also about, right, if you're eating something just because it's food, like you don't have to always think so deeply into like everything. Like if you're just eating lunch, it's just lunch. Like it's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
It's when you're feeling like it's too much and I'm eating to compensate for something. Well, you might not be thinking it before you read the book, but you'll think that after you read the book.
Yeah. I think, the story that I tell in the book about Jenna, who was watching TV, nothing was bothering her, and suddenly, as she put it, Ben and Jerry's was calling her name. She was watching a TV show that really activated her. It was about a sister relationship, and before she was even aware that she was activated about her own sister, she went to ice cream for comfort and distraction. And so we go so quickly to food that we don't even know we're triggered. And that's why it's so important to like really look at, well, what was happening right before you got that sudden urge for food that you think is an addiction. It's
Yeah.
actually a distraction. And I created the food mood formula to help people, because I created it over 10 years, where I really was noticing that when people went to ice cream, they wanted comfort. When people went to chips and pretzels, they were pissed off. In fact, one of my clients, pistachios was her thing, and one day she was like, "Oh, they're pistachios." Perfect.
Very
And
analytic.
and filling foods is filling a void, and I don't talk about it in the book, but like candy and chocolate is like needing sweetness in your life. This is only when you're turning to those foods to change the way you emotionally feel. If you're just having chips with your sandwich at lunch, that's called lunch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But this is a tool that really helps people identify those hidden triggers.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess, as we wrap up just with this idea of you can have food, you can enjoy the food, right? And it's not about not having food. It's about recognizing when you're feeling like it's too much and something doesn't feel right. That's when you want to do some of the exploration, the emotional
Yeah.
stuff comes up.
And why are you eating it? Are you eating it because you're hungry, or because it's lunchtime, or because there's a feeling you can't be with?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So overall, thanks for being here. Highly recommend the book. Get the new version, the updated version. But yeah, it was a really great book. I found it very interesting, helpful in a lot of ways, and I'm so glad you could be on here to talk about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's good to see my friend Carrie here, who also has the same sensibility and helps people in a similar way. But Robin, I really appreciate you doing these and having me on your book club. And you know, I also want to say that the Binge Cure Journal is the accompaniment to the book. So if anyone wants to kind of go deeper and use actual, like it's a workbook, actually, I shouldn't be called a journal, called a workbook, but whatever. It gives you strategies to actually implement the things that I talk about in the book.
Okay, that's amazing. So yeah, you don't even have to go to therapy if it's not for you. You can, get the workbook and kind of see what you can work through on your own. That's fantastic. So yeah, and I'm going to save this here on Instagram and I'm going to put it on YouTube as well. So it's going to be
fantastic
here. So
thanks so much.
Okay, thanks for being here.
Bye.
Bye.